of intercollegiate functions and also facilitate technical visits. Project works contact with industries and academic institutions to encourage the team spirit and self-reliance among student members. Now I would request Honorable VC Sir, Professor Dr. Vishwajoy Chatterjee to say a few words and encourage the society members.
So today we are here to hear from Dr. Pushpendra Singh, and I keep on talking to my students, so I have nothing new to say, but I will only say that it's a very good initiative from the students chapter of IETE and ISLE, and I'm very happy that you people, that my students, to listen from people or professors like Pushpendra Singh sir. See, the thing is, the most important part of the quality that a human being possesses is networking. So that you are starting to network with professors of his caliber is a very, very important part of your learning. So I will request you that you keep on doing such things in future also. We are waiting over here to hear from Professor Dr. Pushpendra Singh. He's from NIT Hamirpur. A little bit about Professor Pushpendra Singh. I will say that Professor Pushpendra, he has got a CV which if I read the whole thing, it will take a lot of time, because you can understand it's full of all his achievements, which have been a lot of them. So he was working for ST Microelectronics to start his career. So he had an industry background. He worked for 7.5 years in the industry. Prior to that, his PhD and MTech were from IIT Delhi and IIT Kanpur. And he is right now working in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering. He is a teacher in that department in the National Institute of Technology, Hamirpur. His papers are innumerable, like he has published in the Royal Society Open Source, IEEE Transactions on Neural Systems and Rehabilitation Engineering, Journal of the Franklin Institute and Proceedings of the Royal Society A, where we all know that like Einstein, Professor Albert Einstein, Watson, Crick, all this, and the great mathematician Ramanujan, everybody published their papers in those journals. So he has published patents, he has published 23 SCI journals, 17 conference papers, and many other book chapters, lecture notes, electronic preprints, and he has got several scientific contributions. Royal Society of London has accepted and published a mathematical function of signal representation after the names of Fourier and Singh as Fourier Singh analytic signal. So you can understand the caliber of this person that we are getting to hear from today. He has proposed Fourier quadrature transforms in 2018 as alternatives to the Hilbert transform, which was proposed in 1905. He has proposed the phase transform in 2020, which is a true generalization of the Hilbert transform. He has also proposed the Pythagorean theorem for linearly independent but non-orthogonal vectors in higher dimensions in 2014. He has published, along with his co-authors, in February 2021, the General Fourier Transform, a unified framework for Fourier, Laplace, Mellin, and Z transforms. In June 2021, provided proper definitions and demonstration of Dirichlet conditions for convergence of the Fourier representation, which have been inadvertently omitted in the literature for many decades, and has been taught and he has been teaching students across the world in all universities. His main area of research includes signal, data modeling, simulation, analysis, machine learning, deep learning and AI, image processing, time frequency analysis, signal processing applications, biomedical signal processing, non-linear and non-stationary data analysis, numerical methods, Fourier decomposition method, modeling and prediction of COVID-19 pandemic. So excuse me if I keep on reading your CV, it will take a lot of time. People are here to listen to you, and we are eagerly waiting to hear from you. So Shohita, will you hand it over to sir now?
Sure, sir.
Thank you. So Professor Singh, you may kindly take over from here.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me and providing an opportunity to present my works and interact with students. So because I always love to interact with students. So am I audible properly and my screen is visual?
Sir, you are audible properly, and we can see the screen also, signal and image processing using the Fourier representations and machine learning. We can see that.
Okay, thank you so much. So today we are going to talk about signal and image processing using Fourier representations and machine learning. So let me tell you first thing that mainly this targeted is audience is the students, and so I'm going to introduce few very basic things, and especially if students loves equations and mathematics, then they can do anything, they can visualize anything, they can implement any kind of machine learning and deep learning network, and even invent new things which we are not able to do today, because that is how the society is progressing. Whatever we are not able to provide solutions to those problems, of course our students are going to solve those problems, and they will enhance the complete humanity from one generation to another generation. So first objective of this talk is to introduce common theory which is useful for both one-dimensional signal and two-dimensional images, and even we can go for the multi-dimensional signals as well. So typical example of one-dimensional signals are audio, speech, ECG, electrocardiogram, EEG, electroencephalogram, which is being taken from the brain and scalp of the human body. And of course, we know image and video processing. So other objective of this study is to convert one-dimensional data such as ECG, EEG, speech, and many other one-dimensional signals to image using Fourier theory. And of course, image processing techniques are very rich. So once one-dimensional data is also converted into the image, then we can use the image processing techniques like machine learning, deep learning, better machine learning and deep learning to process the image data as well as the one-dimensional time series and other data. So there are various applications of the image processing such as medical diagnosis, industrial inspection, maybe the fingerprint, face, iris recognition, character recognition, and space image processing. And one thing a student can notice that implementation of all these applications is based on the linear algebra. So actually when you see any kind of the machine learning and deep learning architecture in any language, maybe the MATLAB, maybe the Python or any other C and C++ basic languages, you will see that each and everything is implemented using the linear algebra. And basically in the linear algebra, we are dealing with the matrices. So in this presentation, if students love equations and mathematics, then this will be really interesting for them. And I'm going to present many new informations to them. But if they do not love mathematics and equations, then in that case, it may be boring as well. So I hope as an engineer, we all love equations, mathematics, and of course. So Fourier representation is one of the most important mathematical formulation for modeling and analysis of physical phenomena, engineering systems, and signals in numerous applications. Fourier representation has been used to obtain solution of problems in almost all fields of mathematics, science, engineering, and technology. It is the fundamental of signal processing, analysis, information extraction, and interpretation. It is named in the honor of Jean-Baptiste Joseph Fourier, who lived from 1768 to 1830. And the first announcement of the great discovery Fourier series was made by Fourier himself in 1807. Hilbert transform. first appeared in Hilbert's 1905 work on a problem Riemann posed concerning the analytic functions, now known as the Riemann-Hilbert problem. And even we know that 1905 is an important year where Einstein proposed the theory of general relativity, special relativity and the general relativity after some time. So in that sense, Hilbert transform was also proposed in 1905. Hilbert transform is a plus minus 5/2 radian phase shifter. And of course, if we are taking repeated n times Hilbert transform, then it will provide n 5/2 phase shift where n is any integer. And of course, it is a positive integer. Recently, we proposed the phase transform, which is a plus minus alpha radian phase shifter, where alpha is any real number. And of course, when alpha is pi/2, it becomes the Hilbert transform. So in that sense, Hilbert transform is a special case of the phase transform. Time domain kernel of phase transform, and its various properties are derived in 2018, and of course we worked on that. However, the phase shiftings were achieved in the frequency domain for many decades, but there was no concise and complete theory to provide the phase transform. And so these are some new developments in the Fourier theory, and we have worked on these things. So Fourier decomposition method for nonlinear and non-stationary time series analysis. It was published in 2017 in the Proceedings of the Royal Society London, Series A. This is one of the most prestigious and oldest journal of the world. Fourier quadrature transforms, alternative to Hilbert transform, published in Royal Society Open Science London. Phase transform was posted as an e-print, or maybe e-print means electronic print, and we are also calling it preprint in 2018, and it is published in Digital Signal Processing Elsewhere journal. Generalized Fourier transform is presented in February 2021, and generalized Fourier transform is providing a unified theory which covers Fourier transform, Laplace transform, Z transform, and Mellin transform, and all these transforms are the special cases of the generalized Fourier transform, which we are calling GFT. Proper definitions and demonstration of Dirichlet conditions is presented in June 2021, very recently, and we made this paper to the public domain on 11th June. And believe me, there are around many millions of the textbooks, and there are very famous writers like Oppenheim and Velsky, Simon Hekin, B.P. Lathi, Monalikis, and Prokis. All these books and maybe many million copies are available in the world. And this gap is present in all the copies, all the literature, all the copies of the textbook, even all the literatures, maybe the research paper as well. So I will start from the very basic, and now we'll start seeing the equations. So Fourier transform, short time Fourier transform, wavelet transform are defined through the inner product. So of course, what is the inner product? So suppose we have two vectors u and v, which belongs to the n-dimensional Rn, we call it Rn, and it is defined at u dot v, which is the inner product. So of course, this definition is known to students from 11th and 12th class. So simply it is element by element multiplication of the vector un and vn, then summation over the n, or we can call it magnitude u and magnitude v cos theta, where magnitude u is the length of the vector u and this is the length of the vector v, and theta is the angle between the vector u and v. And of course, if two vectors u and v are orthogonal, then their inner product will be 0. So this is how the dot product is defined. So in the case of dot product, vector u and v are the real vectors in n-dimensional space. However, inner product is a generalization of the dot product, and most of the transforms which are useful in all kind of applications are defined through the inner product. So dot product is the same as inner product on a finite dimensional Euclidean space, as we have seen in equation 1. Euclidean vector space is a finite dimensional inner product space over the real numbers. Here we can see that U and V belongs to n dimensional space, real space. Now let us define the inner product of two vectors. So of course, as compared to the dot product which we have seen, which is defined only for the finite dimensional vector space, real vector space, inner product is defined as vector u and v, and this is denoted as left angle and right angle, u comma v. So this is the inner product of the vector u and v. And here you can see that we are multiplying element by element of u and v. However, we are taking the complex conjugate of the vector v and obtaining v bar n, then element by element multiplication and summation. And here we can observe that summation is running from minus infinity to plus infinity. However, in the case of dot product, it was from finite dimensional n equal to 0 to some capital N, where overline or var is the complex conjugate operation, and vector u and v may be complex vector, may be real vector, may be finite dimensional, may be infinite dimensional. And if vector u and v are orthogonal, then inner product will be 0. Then inner product of two function is also defined. So if we have xt and yt as two functions, so inner product of this is defined as xt multiplied by y bar t and then integration dt. And of course, functions can be orthogonal, and if the functions are orthogonal, then their inner product is 0. Then inner product induces a norm, which is the length of the vector, and of course this is defined as norm of u. So if u is a vector, so it is defined as square root of inner product of u with itself, and square of the norm is energy in the signal processing. And most of the students are from the electrical, electronics and computer background, so they understand what is the signal processing and what is the energy of the signal. So in some basic definitions, most of the time we are using the convolution operation, whether we see the CNN, convolution neural network, or any other kind of image processing, or even the one-dimensional signal processing. So this is the definition of the convolution in one dimension. So if we have a signal xn and then there is another signal hn, you may call it kernel or filtering operation as well. So it is nothing but xk multiplied by hn minus k and then summation over the k, where of course star denotes the convolution operation, and convolution of xn with hn is same as convolution of hn with xn. So convolution is commuting. Of course, convolution is also defined in the continuous time domain. So xt and ht are two signals, so we can convolve them. Signum function, delta function and unit step functions. These three are the very basic functions, and with the help of these functions, complete signal processing and image processing is defined, especially in terms of the sampling theorem, and maybe the processing of the one-dimensional and two-dimensional signals and images. So of course, signum function is defined as 1 when t greater than 0, and it is 0 when t equal to 0, and it is minus 1 when t less than 0. And this is the unit step function, where unit step function is defined as ut equal to 1 when t greater than equal to 0, and otherwise it is 0. Unit step function is also defined as 1 when t greater than 0. Now you can see here at t equal to 0, at just one point of time, it is half, and it is 0 when t less than 0. And when we are talking in terms of the Lebesgue measure and computing the energy or integral, equation 8 and equation 9, they belongs to equivalence class of signals. Of course, they are not equal, but they are equivalence. Equivalence in the sense, if we define the Lebesgue measure or Lebesgue integral of ut defined in 8 and Lebesgue measure or Lebesgue integral of ut defined in 9, then both will be the same, because if we are having a countable number of countable number of points, then Lebesgue measure of those points is always 0. So they belongs to equivalence class of signals. Dirac delta function, it is one of the most important signals, and strictly speaking, this is not a function, this is a distribution. And Paul Dirac, he was the great scientist, and basically in the undergraduate he was the electrical engineer, and finally he contributed a lot in the physics, and he proposed the Dirac delta function. So Dirac delta function, delta t equal to 0 when t not equal to 0 and area under delta t is 1, or we can say that delta t integration minus epsilon to plus epsilon dt is 1, provided epsilon is greater than 0. We can see other definitions like integration delta t minus t naught, where t naught is a particular value of time t, and integration is this one when t naught is between a and b, otherwise it is 0. Informally, we can also define the delta function delta t equal to 0 when t not equal to 0, and it is infinite when t equal to 0. So here we are calling it informally because infinity is not part of real line, and logically we cannot put infinity here because infinity is a part of the extended real line, and then of course integration of delta t is 1. So most of the signal processing which is almost all signal processing which is happening inside any computer, that is always digital data or at least discrete data, and of course we cannot process any continuous data, but with the help of sampling we are converting analog data into the digital data, and then we are processing through the processor inside the computer, mobile, laptop, whatever we have the processing unit. So unit impulse sequence, which is a discrete version of the delta function, this is represented as delta n equal to 0 when n not equal to 0, and at n equal to 0 it is 1. And of course integration now will become the summation in the case of discrete signals or digital signals. So this will be the summation of delta 1 delta n, which is 1. There are few very famous identities or formulae which are being used for all kind of audio, image and video processing. So these are the well-known identities of the, and these are called the Euler's identities. Now let us see the Fourier series representation. So Fourier series representation is defined for the periodic signals, and if the signal is periodic, so let us assume that x till t is periodic. So x till t is same as x till t plus capital T, where capital T is the fundamental period. And let us also assume that x till t, which is a periodic signal, satisfy the certain Dirichlet conditions. That means there are countable number of finite discontinuities and countable number of extrema, and signal is absolutely integrable. Then x till t can be represented by inner product of ck, where are the coefficients which we have to compute, and these are the basis function, exponential basis function, complex exponential basis function, exp minus jk omega naught t. So when we take the inner product, then we will get the Fourier series representation of xt. That's why we have defined the inner product in few slide ago. So here we can see that this is the Fourier series representation of the periodic signal, where of course omega naught is 2 pi by t, which is called the fundamental frequency, and k is integer which is running from minus infinity to plus infinity, and exponential j, k, omega naught t, these are called the exponential basis functions. Then of course in this equation only ck is unknown, so with the help of inner product we can compute ck. So ck is defined as 1 upon t multiplication factor, where t is the period of the signal with the complex conjugate of this one, which are the complex exponential basis functions. So we are having the signal taking the inner product with the complex exponential basis functions, and we are obtaining this one, and that is how we can compute the ck. Here we can note that Fourier series representation, signal is periodic, time is continuous, and frequency is discrete. Then of course if the signal is not periodic, then we obtain the Fourier transform of a function, which is defined as inner product of the signal xt. Now this is not a basis, this is a kernel. So Fourier transform of signal xt denoted as xf, and it is defined as xt with inner product of the kernel of complex exponential kernel expj2 pi ft, and then we can obtain this one. Then of course once we know the Fourier transform of signal, we can recover the original signal xt by inverse Fourier transform, and inverse Fourier transform is also defined as inner product of the capital Xf, which is the Fourier transform of xt, and then complex conjugate of the kernel, which is exp minus j2 pi ft, and then this will be given by this one. So of course we can also define the Fourier transform in terms of the frequency omega, which is 2 pi f, which is radian per second. And of course here you can see that these two equations 18 and 19, here you can see that multiplication factor is 1. However, when we are representing these Fourier transform with the help of radian frequency omega, we have to take the multiplication factor of 1 upon 2 pi, and so equation 20 is the exactly same on the same as previous one, and this is different. So here the integration is happening with respect to omega, and multiplication factor is 1 upon 2 pi. We can also define in Fourier transform in this way as well, where multiplication factor is 1 upon root 2 pi in the Fourier transform as well as in the reverse Fourier transform. And these two set of equations are famous, especially in the physics. So physicists are using this kind of transformation, Fourier transform and inverse Fourier transform, which are very symmetric. So we can note that in Fourier transform, signal is generally aperiodic or non-periodic, and time is continuous, frequency is also continuous. Now let us see what is the phase transform and how it can help in machine learning, deep learning for any kind of signal and image applications where we can do detection, classification, and segmentation kind of things. So let us assume that signal xt is delta t. Then of course with the help of Fourier representation we can write delta t by this one, 1 upon 2 pi integration minus infinity to plus infinity exponential j omega t d omega, and then of course this can be simplified in this way, where delta t is 1 upon 2 pi integration over the entire real line cos omega t d omega, and since this is an even function, we can further manipulate and make it 2 times of this one, so it will become 1 upon pi 0 to infinite cos omega t d omega, and its imaginary part is 0 because sine omega t d omega is an odd function. So of course now if you are keen here and observe it, delta function is defined in this way, so we can give and provide phase shift to delta function. So of course here delta t comma alpha, where alpha is phase to the delta function. So of course in this equation just we are writing cos omega t minus alpha. So this kind of simple observation can give you new mathematical representation transform as we are providing here the phase transform. So clearly delta t 0 is same as delta t. So if alpha is 0, this is the same as this one. So of course this identity is known. Cos A minus B is same as cos A cos B plus sin A sin B. So of course previous equation can be written in this way, and then when we further simplify it, we can write delta t comma alpha is equal to cos alpha delta t plus sin alpha ht, where ht is the Hilbert transform, and mathematically we can write in this way, because from equation 27 we can easily observe that ht is 1 upon pi 0 to infinity integration sin omega t d omega. And of course if you try to solve this equation, it will not be easy to solve directly. So rather than solving this equation directly, we are going to solve in other way. So of course just we are going to multiply by e to the power minus sigma omega exponentially decaying function with sin omega t d omega, and then of course this equation or this integral can be easily obtained, and this is 1 upon pi t upon sigma square plus t square. And now in this equation if we put sigma tends to 0, then of course we can obtain ht, and from here we can see that it is 0 when t equal to 0, and it is 1 upon pi t when t not equal to 0. And Hilbert transform is being used in all kind of applications, maybe the communication, quadrature amplitude modulation, single sideband modulation, which is being taught to the students of the electronics engineering, maybe second year and third year, and all kind of time and frequency applications for the biomedical processings and image processings as well. So function 1 upon pi t is well known Hilbert transform kernel, which is singular at the origin. That means ht is equal to infinity at t equal to 0, and this perception was in the literature for more than a century. However, it is shown in the equation this one that Hilbert kernel possesses 0 rather than pole at the origin. Poles are also known as singularity or infinity at the origin. Then of course we can obtain the Fourier transform of the ht kernel, and Fourier transform of the ht kernel is hf, where hf is equal to minus j sigma f, and of course ht is the Hilbert kernel which we have already obtained. So from this equation we can see that Hilbert transform provides minus 9 pi by 2 and plus pi by 2 phase shifts to the positive and negative frequencies respectively, which we can see clearly from the equation 33, because hf, which is the Fourier transform of the Hilbert kernel ht, is nothing but minus j, and then it is minus e to the power minus j pi by 2, and here we can see that there is a phase shift of minus pi by 2 for the positive frequencies. At f equal to 0, it is 0. That means DC component is being killed by the Hilbert transform, and when we have the negative frequencies, it will be pi by 2 phase shift. So in terms of the convolution operation, we have already defined what is the convolution. So we can define the Hilbert transform in terms of the convolution operation, where h is operating on the xt. That means we are taking the Hilbert transform of the xt, which is nothing but x hat t, which is xt convolution with ht, and then we can give this equation. So with the help of phase transform, we can obtain the analytic signal representation, which is called the ZT. So ZT is nothing but original signal xt, where xt is the real valued signal, and x hat t, which is the Hilbert transform of the xt, and j is nothing but under root minus 1 imaginary part, and in mathematics we are calling it iota. And when we combine these two, we can obtain this integral equation. And since zt is now complex signal, so we can have the polar representation where zt is equal to at exponential j phi t, where 8 is the amplitude and phi t is the phase, and phi t phase is defined as tan inverse x hat t upon ht. Once we know this zt, now differentiation of the phase is frequency. So now we have the amplitude as a function of time, frequency as a function of time, and we can easily convert one-dimensional signal to the images in terms of the time, frequency, and energy representation. And then we can use the image processing tools to handle the one-dimensional signal. So like Hilbert transform, as we have already obtained the kernel of the Hilbert transform, we can define the phase transform of any signal xt, and we are denoting it as xt comma alpha, where we can obtain the in terms of the operator h alpha, where h alpha is the phase shifting operator which is operating on the signal xt, and which is nothing but xt convolution with kernel of the phase transform, and finally we are obtaining cos alpha xt plus sin alpha x hat t, and this representation is giving alpha degree phase shift to the signal xt. So we can see some example of the phase transform. One phase transform of one is cos alpha, and if we have cos omega t, phase transform of this will be cos omega t minus alpha. Similarly for sin omega t, phase transform of sin omega t is sin omega t minus alpha, where omega is not zero. If we have Dirac delta function, then we can obtain the phase transform of this cos alpha delta t plus sin alpha delta t comma pi by 2. Similarly, we can define the phase transform of all other functions. Now let us see one important relation of the phase transform with the Fourier transform. And if we take the Fourier transform of the phase transform kernel, then we will obtain this one. And from this we can easily see that for positive frequencies there is a minus alpha radian phase shift, and for frequency 0 there is a multiplication factor of cos alpha, and when frequency f is negative, which is less than 0, phase shift of there is a phase shift of alpha radian, and hence phase transform provides minus alpha and plus alpha phase shift to positive and negative frequencies respectively. And of course, when alpha is pi by 2, it becomes the Hilbert transform, and thus Hilbert transform is a very special case of the phase transform. Now let us see few interesting figures and maybe the application of the phase transform. So suppose we have one-dimensional signal, and in this case I'm considering the Gaussian pulse and a Gaussian function and Gaussian probability density function especially. It's very famous among the engineers and maybe the mathematicians and physicists as well, because most of the time when we are dealing with the noise and various other kind of things, we assume that signal PDF is, or noise PDF is especially Gaussian PDF. So this signal, blue one, first one, is the original Gaussian function, and now with the help of the mathematics which we have presented so far, I am providing the phase shift, that means phase shift in step of pi by 20, and this signal corresponding to the tip of the arrow is the Hilbert transform. So as the phase of the Gaussian function is increasing, the shape of the function is increasing, however its energy and frequency contents are not increasing. So lot of information is hidden in the shape of the Gaussian function. So if we have one-dimensional data, suppose Gaussian function, and with the help of phase transform we can convert it into this image, then our image processing techniques can easily recognize this is nothing but a Gaussian function. So this is, for example, we have taken a Gaussian function. We can take any physical functions, any physical signals or real signals like ECG, EEG, speech, or earthquake data, maybe the gravitational wave, and we can take the phase transform of those data and obtain this kind of images which can be processed using the image processing techniques. And now this is the phase transform of the same Gaussian function. So now this blue one corresponds to 180-degree phase shift, and it is well known that when there is a 180-degree phase shift, signal is just being multiplied by -1. So now from pi to 2 pi, we are increasing the phase, or we are shifting the phase of the Gaussian function, and this signal corresponding to tips of the arrow is 270-degree or 3 pi by 2 phase shift, and this corresponds to 2 pi phase shift, which is nothing but the original Gaussian function. So between 0 to 2 pi, we can see how the shape of the Gaussian function is changing. So here is the combination, and this is the phase shift in 0 to 2 pi. Of course, you can easily implement the equation which we have provided, and I'm going to send these slides to all the students so that they can see and they can understand this important things related to the Fourier transform, phase transform, and then image processing, conversion of the time series to the image, and then using the machine learning for the image processing. So this is the phase shift of the Gaussian function in 0 to 2 pi in the step of pi by 20. Of course, between 0 to 2 pi, there are infinite real numbers. So we can discretize it and we can take certain steps so that we can reach from pi to 2 pi. So of course, if we are interested and want more information of the phase transform, then we can refer this paper. And phase transform can be implemented using discrete time Fourier transform, continuous wavelet transform, and all are implemented using the fast Fourier transform algorithms. And I think fast Fourier transform algorithms are one of the most important tool for one-dimensional signals and 2D image processing. So of course, now we can define the discrete time Fourier transform. So here we can see that discrete time Fourier transform of signal xn. Now signal xt with the help of sampling converted to signal xn, and once this is the signal xn, now we cannot define Fourier transform, we can define discrete time Fourier transform. So discrete time Fourier transform is again defined with the help of inner product. So discrete signal, and this is the complex exponential expj omega n, and taking the inner product of xn with this complex exponential, we are obtaining this one. And here we can notice that discrete time Fourier transform is periodic and period is 2 pi. Similarly, we can define inverse DTFT of the function x omega, and this is defined by this inner product equation where 1 upon 2 pi is the multiplication factor, and inner product of x omega with complex conjugate of the complex exponential, which is exp minus j omega n, and then we obtain this equation. Here we can notice that here there is a summation respect to n, because now n is a discrete, and there is a integration with respect to omega now because omega is still continuous. So if there is a continuous variable like omega here, there will be integration, and since this is periodic, so it is integration in one period, 1 upon 2 pi minus pi to plus pi, or you can take 0 to 2 pi as well. So we can note that signal is aperiodic, time is discrete, frequency is continuous, and spectrum is periodic in the case of DTFT. So one of the important aspect which students can note, periodicity in the time domain causes discreteness in the frequency domain, as you have seen in the Fourier series. Now, discreteness in the time domain causes periodicity in the frequency domain, as we have seen in the discrete time Fourier transform. Now, we can discretize the frequency as well, and by discretizing the signal x omega to the xk, we can obtain discrete Fourier transform, and this is what implemented in MATLAB, Python, C, C++, and being used for all kind of audio and image processing. So discretization in the time domain corresponds to periodicity in the frequency domain. Now there is a duality principle which plays a role, and therefore discretization in the frequency domain causes periodicity in the time domain, and this is what the DFT. So finally we have reached to the discrete Fourier transform representation for one-dimensional signal, and this can be very easily extended for the image and higher dimensional signal, because the kernels are separable in the case of Fourier transform. So we define the discrete Fourier transform, and this is what implemented in the MATLAB, Python, C, and C++. And in this case, you can see that time which is denoted by n is discrete, that means n is integer, and similarly k, which is frequency denoting frequency, is also discrete. And you know that in computer we can process only the discrete or digital signals. We cannot process continuous signal, because between any two real numbers there are infinite real numbers, and to process the infinite real numbers, or maybe the complex number as well, we need infinite computing power, infinite memory, and hence we cannot process inside the computer. So for that we need analog computing devices, which are not available in the market right now. So xk, which is the discrete Fourier transform of the xn, is defined as 1 upon n multiplication factor xn with inner product. Now these are the basis functions, complex basis function, complex exponential basis function, expj 2 pi k n upon n, where capital N is the length of the signal and it is also the period of the signal. So of course this can be written as this one, where k is running from 0 to capital N minus 1, and DFT pairs are denoted as xn. Then this is the time domain signal, and its DFT or discrete Fourier transform is xk. Then of course we can recover the original signal from the DFT by this inner product, and we will obtain this one. So notice equation 43 and 44. Here is a multiplication factor of 1 by n, and here multiplication factor of 1. And here in the complex exponential, there is a minus sign and there is a plus sign. And this is the time domain signal, and this is the frequency domain signal. Of course, we can also write this equation in this way. So now multiplication factor 1 is here and 1 by n is here. And of course, we can see that signal is periodic in the time domain as well as in the frequency domain. That means xn is equal to xn plus capital N, which is time domain periodicity, and xk equal to xk plus capital N, which is frequency domain periodicity. So we can also write in this way, where multiplication factor has moved from here to here, and even we can define in this way as well. There is a multiplication factor of 1 by root n in the Fourier transform, and 1 by root n multiplication factor in the inverse Fourier transform. So now this is the symmetric. So all three set of equations are valid, and in MATLAB this one is implemented. So when you are taking the DFT through FFT, first Fourier transform, you are implementing, and this in the MATLAB especially. And so this will depend upon the implementation. You can implement this one or this one or 43 and 44. So discrete cosine transform. DCT, and especially two-dimensional DCT, is very famous for image and video processing. So here I am going to give you the mathematical representation of one-dimensional DCT, which can be very easily and straightforwardly extended to the two-dimensional and maybe the more than two-dimensional for image and video processing. So DCT2, generally when we are talking about DCT, there are 8 kind of DCTs and 8 kind of DST, discrete sign transform. So there are 16 representations, 8 kind of DCTs and 8 kind of DSTs. And when we are talking about just DCT, so by default it means DCT type 2. So this is called the DCT2. So DCT2 of signal xn is defined in this way. There is a multiplication factor of under root 2 by n, and this is the xn, and these are the cosine basis functions. Signal xn is real, cosine basis functions are also real, and this is the inner product of xn with cosine basis function, and we will obtain this one easily because we know the definition of the inner product, so we can easily write this equation where there is a, you can notice that there is a multiplication factor of sigma k, where sigma k is equal to 1 by root 2 for k equal to 0, and it is 1 for k not equal to 0, and this multiplication factor is needed so that we can obtain the simple inverse or recover the original signal from the DCT. So here we are writing equation for the inverse DCT, that means how to recover the original signal from the DCT. So of course this is the inner product, the multiplication factor and inner product of xe2k, which is the DCT of xn, and then same basis function as we have used here and here. And since these are the real signals, so no need to take the complex conjugate as we have been taking for the Fourier transform and discrete Fourier transform, DTFT, Fourier series and all. So now these two equations are easily extended for the image processing, and images are two dimensions because there are two independent variable x and y, those are the spatial variable, and especially in the time series is a one-dimensional signal because there is only one independent variable x n, where n is integer. And in the case of video is called three-dimensional signal because moving images, that means if images are changing with time, then they will become the video. So if images are changing with time, then they will become the video. That means video is a three-dimensional signal. X and y are two dimensions, and then there is another dimension that is called the time. So one of the most important property of the discrete cosine transform is if the consecutive samples of signal xn are correlated, then DCT concentrates energy in few coefficients and decorrelates them. That's why DCT is very famous for one-dimensional signals and two-dimensional images compression and encoding. Then, of course, what are the problems in the Fourier transform? In Fourier transform, and especially before the short time Fourier transform, we are having various kind of Fourier representation. In the time domain, there is no frequency information, and in the frequency domain, there is no time information. So we cannot convert one-dimensional data to image. So first representation which converts one-dimensional data to image is called the short-time Fourier transform. And short-time Fourier transform is nothing but signal xt multiplying with the window where gt minus tau, where gt is the window and gt minus tau is the shifting in the window. So this is nothing but windowed Fourier transform where g is the window, and that is how we define the short-time Fourier transform, and it is of course defined through the inner product. So xt multiplied by the window, then complex exponential kernel exp j omega t, and take the inner product of these two, we will obtain this one, and that is how the short-time Fourier transform is defined. where GT is a window function, generally head window or Gaussian window, which are centered around the origin. Then of course we can obtain the original signal from the certain Fourier transform by this expression. So there is a multiplication factor of 1 upon 2 pi, and then this is the STFT of the signal XT, and then this is the complex conjugate of the same kernel, and inner product of these two is going to give this one. And from this expression we can easily see that xt is nothing but 1 upon 2 pi 1 upon g naught, because we can evaluate this expression at t equal to tau. So when you put t equal to tau, this will become the g naught, and just we have to make sure that g naught is not equal to 0, because division by 0 is not defined. But there are several issues with STFT. Time frequency representation depends on the type of Fusion window. Larger window size provides good time resolution and good frequency resolution. Poor time resolution and good frequency resolution. However, a smaller window size provides good time resolution but poor frequency resolution. So there is an uncertainty principle, like we have uncertainty principle in physics. So Heisenberg uncertainty principle is there in the physics, which is telling you that position and momentum you cannot simultaneously get infinite resolution. That means there will always be some uncertainty. Similarly, in the signal processing and image processing, there is an uncertainty principle with respect to certain Fourier transform and wavelet transform, which is telling you that we cannot have infinite resolution both in time and frequency domain. So to overcome some limitation of the certain Fourier transform, continuous wavelet transform was proposed, and here we can see that continuous wavelet transform of signal xt, which is L2R. L2R is nothing but finite energy signals, because if the signal is not in L2R, then wavelet transform of that signal may not exist. So it is denoted as x psi s comma tau, which is xt signal, and then inner product with the wavelet basis functions psi s tau t, and this is defined in this way: xt, and then complex conjugate of the wavelet basis functions, and this one. So of course, with the help of Fourier transform, we can write this equation in this way, where s is the scaling factor, tau is the shifting parameter, and of course s cannot be 0, and because when s is 0, this will become 0. So there is a translation, tau belongs to real number, and with the help of scaling and translation, we can generate a family of daughter wavelets. So psi s comma tau t is called the family of daughter wavelets, and psi t is the mother wavelet. So by just translating and scaling the psi t, we can obtain psi s comma tau t, which are the family of the daughter wavelets, and by which we can define the continuous wavelet transform. And with the help of continuous wavelet transform, we can convert time series and one-dimensional time series and other data into images. And what is the basic property of the wavelet? Wavelet function psi t belongs to L2R. That means it is a finite energy signal, which is zero mean and finite energy. So of course there is a admissibility condition, which is telling you that if we satisfy this admissibility condition, then we can recover the original signal xt from the wavelet transform by this expression. So there are still some issues with continuous wavelet transform, like time frequency representation depends on the type of used wavelet function, because there are many wavelet functions which are available for the wavelet transform. Another issue is at low frequency resolution is good, but time resolution is poor. Third issue is at high frequency, time resolution is good, but frequency resolution is poor. So to avoid all these drawbacks, there are another method which is called the Fourier decomposition method, which I am going to discuss right now. And with the help of Fourier decomposition method, we can overcome the uncertainty principle, which is playing a role in the time frequency analysis. So there are certain necessary conditions for a set of basis vector to represent a nonlinear and non-stationary signals, which are the completeness, orthogonality, locality, and adaptiveness. So of course, we can decompose a signal xt in terms of the xm, where summation over m plus nt is the original signal, where nt is a mean value or trend, and xm is the single or mono component non-stationary signal. Then with the help of Hilbert transform, we can obtain this expression where zt is the analytic signal representation, where xm are the components of the xt, and x height m are the Hilbert transform of the xm. And with the help of this one, we can write this one. And now instantaneous frequency is defined as the differentiation of the phase, and just we have to differentiate this phase. So because now we have represented xmt as amt multiplied by cosine phi mt, where amt is the amplitude which is always positive, and phi mt is the phase, and differentiation of the phi mt must be positive because negative frequency, there is no physical meaning of the negative frequencies, because physicists are especially in the physics, frequencies are defined as number of vibrations per second or number of cycles per second, and hence if this number is negative, then it does not provide any physical significance. That's why this condition is necessary. So time frequency energy, which is nothing but conversion of the 1D data to 2D data, is obtained by distribution of time, and this is the instantaneous frequency which is a function of time, and this is the instantaneous energy square of the amplitude which is also a function of time, and we can obtain this time frequency energy representation with the help of Fourier decomposition method. Many methods like empirical mode decomposition, variational mode decomposition, empirical wavelet transform, empirical wavelet decomposition, etc. have been proposed to obtain three-dimensional time frequency energy representation, and three-dimensional objects are represented in 2D by the color representation. And of course, empirical mode decomposition proposed by NASA in 1998 is the most popular method for time frequency energy analysis. However, there are many problems in the empirical mode decomposition, like mode mixing, deterrent uncertainty, and artifacts, non-orthogonality of the intrinsic mode functions. These are many problems which are available in the literature. There is also a lack of mathematical understanding of the empirical mode decomposition algorithm due to empirical in the nature. For example, IMF's dependence on the number of shifting and stopping criteria is not settled. Convergence property and stability to noise perturbation is not addressed. For many decades, there was a general perception in the literature that Fourier methods cannot be used for nonlinear and non-stationary data analysis, and hence it cannot be used for conversion of 1D data to 2D images. So we provided Fourier decomposition method. So this is one of the interesting thing to convert 1D data to images and obtain the time frequency energy analysis. So now let us see one interesting application or interesting thing. Here in this figure we have three vectors c1, c2, c3. So this is the Pythagoras theorem in 3 dimension where the vectors are non-orthogonal. So how to visualize that kind of things? Because Pythagoras theorem was proposed maybe 200 to 300 BC. And since then, we know that Pythagoras theorem is only valid for the orthogonal signals and orthogonal vectors. But can we define something which is, or can we define the Pythagoras theorem for non-orthogonal vector as well? So answer is yes, but number of dimensions must be greater than and equal to 3. That means from 3 dimension or third dimension onward, we can define the Pythagoras theorem for non-orthogonal vector. But in the 2 dimension, Pythagoras theorem is valid only for orthogonal vectors. So here I'm just giving the pictorial view of how 3 vectors can be non-orthogonal and still they can follow the property of the Pythagoras theorem or like they are going to preserve the energy. So this is the C2, C3, and this is the summation of C2, C3. These are the vector summation. Now we have vector C1, which is perpendicular to C2 plus C3, but C1 is not perpendicular to C3 and C1 is not perpendicular to C2. And this is the summation of the signal X. So from here we can see that X is nothing but C1 plus C2 plus C3. And C1 is perpendicular to C2 plus C3 and C2 is perpendicular to C3, but C1 is not perpendicular to C2 and C1 is not perpendicular to C3. And still we can satisfy the property of the Pythagoras theorem and hence preserve the energy. So this is the one pictorial view, and as a human being we can visualize and draw the pictures up to 3 dimension only. After 3 dimension, mathematically we can operate and we can have the mathematical representation, but we cannot visualize. So Fourier decomposition method, I am just going to few things, skipping so many things because there are a lot of equations and may not be interesting. So I'm going to very soon to the application where we are using machine learning and deep learning network for the one-dimensional and two-dimensional image processing. So this is the gist of the Fourier decomposition method. We have a signal xn, then we are taking the discrete Fourier transform, and then we are having the filter banks H1k, H2k, and HMK. And then these filter banks are the zero phase filter banks, and then we are having the inverse discrete time Fourier inverse DFT in inverse discrete Fourier transform, and we are obtaining signal x1, x2, xm such that summation of x1 plus x2 plus xm is the original signal. So this is some sort of perfect reconstruction because whatever the individual components we have obtained, summation of those components are xn. Along with that, they are orthogonal to each other. That means if we take the inner product of x1 with any other vector, it will be 0. Similarly, we can take the inner product of x2n with any other component, it will be 0. So they are orthogonal, and perfect reconstruction is ensured by just making sure that sum of all the filters is 1 for all k, and where n is the length of the signal xn. So of course the same thing can be implemented with the help of discrete cosine transform, where h1, h2, hm are the zero phase filters, and this is the inverse DCT, and these are the components which are orthogonal and they are complete. Complete in the sense if we sum them, x1 plus x2 plus xm is the original signal. So this is one comparison of the Fourier decomposition method with Fourier wavelet EMD Hilbert. So I'm going to skip it. Now let us see how we can decompose the images. So we know that image is a two-dimensional data where x and y are the spatial coordinates, x coordinates and y coordinates, and energy is going into the third dimension, that is z dimension, and images may be grayscale images or color images. In grayscale images, each pixel is represented by 8 bit. However, in the case of color images, we are having three-dimensional matrices, one for red, another for green, and another for blue. And with the help of RGB, we are reproducing all other kind of colors, and each pixel is representing 8 bit, and hence in the case of color images there will be 24 bits per pixels, and with the help of 24 bit per pixels, and we can have many millions of the colors. That is how marketing people, in especially in the case of television, they are advertising their televisions because they are able to represent millions of the colors using 24 bits. But of course our eyes can distinguish only few colors, and so that is not true that we are able to recognize the millions of the colors. So two-dimensional Fourier decomposition can decompose an image. Suppose gxy is an image, and now we are using two-dimensional Fourier decomposition method. So in these figures, in place of one dimension n, we are going to just replace it by two dimension x and y, and rest things will be the same. So we will use two-dimensional DCT, two-dimensional inverse discrete Fourier transform, and these components will become the two-dimensional components, which are the components of the original image. So suppose we have an image gxy, and then we can decompose this image in m components, and then we can write in this way, where L is equal to 1 to m ALXY e to the power j phi LXY, and of course ZLXY is analytic signal, where original signal Lth component GLXY plus Hilbert transform of that, and then multiplied by j. So original image is a sum of AM FM component. AM means amplitude modulated and FM means frequency modulated. So of course amplitude is changing with spatial coordinates x and y, and phase is also changing with spatial coordinate x and y. That's why it is called AFM component. And once the image is decomposed in this way, we can augment the data in the machine learning using the Fourier decomposition method. So fundamental property of the analytic signal. So this is called the analytic signal, and this is the analytic signal representation, where original signal with Hilbert transform of that multiplied by the j, and hence this is a complex signal. So fundamental property of the analytic signal, especially from the viewpoint of image processing and recognition, is the split of the identity. Now let us see what is the split of the identity. Analytic signal in Fourier representation yields two local features, the instantaneous amplitude and instantaneous frequency. Instantaneous amplitude ALXY and instantaneous frequency phi LXY. Local features of the image fulfill the property of invariance and equivariance. That means local phase depends on the local structure of the image, and local amplitudes depends on the local energy of the image. If these features are a complete description of image, then they are said to perform a split of the identity. The split of the identity is mathematically valid for band limited signals with local zero mean property. Therefore, split of identity is valid for all sinusoidal functions, and hence valid for the Fourier representation of a function. Therefore, Fourier theory yields analytic signal representation of signal that relies on the orthogonal decomposition of the structural information, which is the local phase, and energetic information, which is the local energy. Now let us see what are the applications of the Fourier decomposition method or Fourier representation for the 1D and 2D data analysis, maybe classification, segmentation, and pattern recognition, something like that. So here we can see that there are ECG, EEG signal or image. Here can be any kind of signal, images or electrocardiogram, heart signal, ECG, brain signal, or maybe the cancer images, or maybe any other kind of images. Then with the help of Fourier decomposition method, we can decompose these signals or images into the Fourier intrinsic band functions, narrow band functions. And now we can remove the noise by discarding the FIBFs corresponding to noise, and the rest we are going to retain them. Once we have the clean signal here, now there are two paths. One is the deep learning path, like LSTM or CNN we can use for the time series classification, maybe segmentation. And there is another path which is called the machine learning path. In the case of deep learning path, features are being extracted by the network itself. Just we are feeding these images or these time domain signals, or these time domain signal converted into the images. So everything is image now here. So in the deep learning things, all features will be extracted by the network itself. So we are going to design a deep learning network for a particular task. Maybe suppose we are going to detect the cancer in the images for cancer diagnosis. We can use the deep learning network, where with the help of deep learning network we can detect whether some cancerous tissues are present in those images or not. So we can classify healthy versus cancerous, something like that, for binary classification. In the case of machine learning network, we are extracting the features from the images, and those features are passed through the feature selection box or feature selection algorithms, and features which are not important will be discarded here, and then we can use the machine learning based classifiers like LSTM, SBM, support vector machine, maybe the KNN, K nearest neighbor classifier. There are so many classifier in the machine learning. And if you are using the MATLAB, then there is a machine learner classifiers which is available in the MATLAB, and so many classifiers are there. Maybe more than 10 to 15 classifiers are there, and you can train your network and get the classification regression analysis. So this is the complete overview. Using the Fourier decomposition method, we can analyze one-dimensional data as well as two-dimensional data images. So first step is convert one-dimensional data to images. If we are going to classify the one-dimensional data, so first we will convert one-dimensional data to image, and once we have the image, so maybe we are having the cancerous images which are actually obtained by X-ray and CT scan, or maybe we are having some heart signal or some other signal which is one-dimensional data and converted to the image. Then finally everything is image, and using the deep learning network here or machine learning classifications, feature extraction and classification, we can process the data and achieve the objective results, desired results. So there are many applications of the Fourier representation and Fourier decomposition method, and it has been applied in many applications such as gravitational wave analysis, classification of ECG and EEG, which are the heart and brain signals, speech analysis, seismographic earthquake data analysis, because in the earthquake especially we are interested in the time frequency analysis, so that we can recognize at what frequency components there is a maximum energy, and so that we can design our structures, maybe the building and bridge, so that there is no resonance with the earthquake data, and hence the damage is minimum. That is how we analyze the earthquake data and make our structures earthquake resistant. So COVID-19 pandemic modeling, of course, we can predict what is going to happen in next 10 days, next 15 days, and next 1 month, so that our governments and the responsible who are dealing with the pandemics can take policy decisions based on our predictions. And similarly, we can do the time frequency analysis of nonlinear and non-stationary time series and other data. So let us take one decomposition of the image. Here we are having the very famous LINA image, and then this LINA image have been decomposed in 7 components. So this is the lowest frequency component, and this is the highest frequency component. And with the help of Fourier decomposition method, rather than feeding this image, we are going to feed 7 images. So this is the data augmentation, and along with that, we can observe that different information is present in the different bands. In the low frequency, here we are having the almost DC components, and high frequency components are having the fine details. So of course, network can extract all the required information from these FIVFs. So we are going to feed this image along with that these images. So now the data is augmented, and network is now able to see fine structures as well as coarse structures which are present in the images. That is how we can use the Fourier representation and Fourier decomposition to enhance the data and process the image. Similarly, this is the synthetic network or artificial signal, synthetic signal, where we are having the chirp signal. As the time is increasing, this is the time axis and this is the frequency axis, and the time domain signal is has been converted to the image, and we are calling it time frequency energy analysis. So from this figure, we can clearly see that there is FM signal. That means frequency is increasing and decreasing with time. And then there is another component which is the chirp signal, and as the time is increasing, frequency is increasing, however the energy is constant. However, if we see just time domain signal, we will not be able to recognize that signal at all. But this kind of images we can easily recognize, and we can say that our time domain signal is composed of two components. One is the FM component and another is the chirp signal. So same signal has been processed with FDM, and here we are using high to low frequency scan. So this is another view of the FDM. So these two views are available from the same signal, but here we can see that we have applied empirical mode decomposition, which was proposed by the NASA. There is a lot of energy leakage in the time frequency plane, and there is a lot of distortion in the image. So it will be difficult for our network or our signal processing tools or machine learning and deep learning to recognize exactly what is inside the signal and how to classify it. So let me see this one interesting thing. This is the delta function, especially delta n, and this is the imaginary part of the analytic signal, and this is the magnitude of the analytic signal. And from here we can see that this signal is concentrated in time at n not equal to 199. The amplitude is 1, and otherwise it is 0. And when we take the time frequency energy analysis of that, so converted this 1D data into the image, ideally this should be this. So at this time, so we can see that time information is there. At 2 seconds, there is a bright dot which is delta function, and the frequency is 25. But when we do the same analysis with the help of ensemble empirical mode decomposition, here we can see that there is a lot of energy leakage, and this method is not correctly able to concentrate the signal in time as well as in frequency. And when we did the same thing with the help of continuous wavelet transform, in this analysis also, at high frequency there is a good time resolution, but at low frequency there is a very poor time resolution. So this is also not a good method to convert time series into the time frequency energy images. This is the gravitational wave, and I think this was the first gravitational wave which scientists captured and named it gravitational wave 150914. And this is the numerical relativity waveform of H1 strain captured by the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, LIGO, Hanford, USA. And you might have heard that gravitational waves are now being captured because these gravitational waves were predicted by the Einstein in predicted by Einstein in 1915 or 1916. And after 100 years of the prediction of the Einstein, gravitational wave was captured in 2015. And the scientists who were working on this, they got the Nobel Prize on this. So here from this signal, we can easily see that gravitational waves, as the time is increasing, amplitude is increasing and frequency is increasing. And anyway, what is the gravitational wave? Gravitational waves are ripples in the time and space. That means when the gravitational waves are passing through our Earth, entire time and space, especially entire Earth, is vibrating, and that is contracting and expanding, and that is going to create a vibration which is captured by the LIGO, and that is how we can see that space itself is contracting and expanding because of the gravitational wave. And this was predicted by Einstein in 1915. And the order of the contraction is, here you can see that strength 10 to the power minus 21. What is the radius of the atom? It is 10 to the power minus 15. So contraction and expansion in the space and time is happening in the order of much less than the radius of the atoms. So 10 to the power minus 21 meter, you can imagine. This kind of precision is having in the LIGO observatory. So when you take the time frequency analysis of this gravitational wave, we can easily see that signal is having certain frequency, and as the time is increasing, frequency is increasing, brightness is also increasing, hence amplitude is increasing or energy increasing, and finally there is a ring down and gravitational waves are dying out. When we did the same analysis with the help of continuous wavelet transform, here we can see that we are having very poor frequency resolution and time resolution as well. So of course, continuous wavelet transform is not as good as the Fourier decomposition method which we presented in our research. This is the ECG signal. ECG signals, we all know what is the ECG. This is the recording of the heart activity, heart electrical activity, how the heart is pumping the blood throughout the body. So this is the clean ECG signal, and this is the corrupted ECG signal which is having the baseline wonder and power line interference. Now using the Fourier decomposition method, we can clean and remove the baseline wonder and power line interference, and this was achieved by the EMD method. So here you can see that there is a lot of distortion. However, when we did the same thing by the Fourier decomposition method, we are able to remove the power line interference and baseline wonder and get the clean ECG signal. And now doctor, based on this ECG signal, can take the decision, or we can process this signal and can diagnose whether if there is any problem in the heart or not. So this is the output SNR versus input SNR on the same using EMD and FDM with FIR implementation and FDM with DFT implementation. So here you can see that output SNR is not improving in the case of empirical mode decomposition. However, in our research we found that output SNR is increasing and input SNR is increasing up to certain limit. After that it is getting saturated. But still performance of the FDM is much better than the empirical mode decomposition method. This is the speech signal, original speech signal, and this is the EGG, and this is the differentiated EGG. This is the Fourier spectrum of the speech signal. And when we applied the Fourier decomposition method, we decomposed in these components, and we are now clearly able to recognize the fundamental frequency, because fundamental frequency estimation of the speech signal is useful for the voice recognition, speech processing, speech signal compression and all. And this is one of the most important parameters which is present in the speech. and with the help of Fourier decomposition method and time frequency energy plot. So these are the time domain signal, speech signal, time series signals decomposed into various FIBFs, Fourier intrinsic band functions, which are the narrow band functions, and then these are converted to images with the help of time frequency energy plot. So this signal is converted to image, and now using the image processing techniques and maybe the machine learning and deep learning, we can easily recognize fundamental frequency, which is important in many applications. So I think I have reached to the end of the presentation. So I have provided the MATLAB code of all these pictures and figures which we have generated. These are available in my ResearchGate profile. So there are two kind of Fourier decomposition method code. One is flexible, user can decide and control the number of FIBF and their cutoff frequency. There is another code which is automatic and no user control. Once just you have to give the signal, time domain signal, and it will convert time domain signal into the images. And these are few references where you can see some latest development in the Fourier decomposition method for image processing or time series processing and various applications of that. So I think thank you for your kind attention and patience, and I hope it was not so boring to the students.
Certainly not, sir, because there are certain questions in the questions box, though those being posted by the students, few of them are quite basic, but still, because those are from the students, I will take your permission to read those questions also, which are maybe somewhat basic and maybe maybe
I'm facing one problem here. I'm not able to see you all. I don't know why.
Okay, so I will just switch on my webcam, sir. Okay, so now you're able to see me.
See, in my screen, just I'm able to see my screen only. And can you see my screen?
No, you have just switched off your screen just now, sir. You just stopped your screen right now.
Okay, so I'm not able to see the screen and all, just I'm able to listen you.
Okay. But
so
I can see,
anyway,
like,
you can read out the questions.
Okay.
Sir, you can read out the question, no problem.
Okay, so one question that was, firstly, as I was telling, few are basic questions, but still I take your permission to read those because those are from the students. So one question from Mr. Rahul Ranjan. Sir, thank you for your demonstration on basics of Fourier transform. Can you please comment how I can differentiate between orthogonal and orthonormal function? Because during mathematics, I got it confusing.
Okay, so in the case of orthogonal functions, inner product is 0 and they are not normalized. That means they are not unit vectors. But in the case of orthonormal, they are orthogonal as well as they are having the unit vectors. So if you are having two vectors, if you normalize them and make them unit vector, and if they are orthogonal as well, then they are called the orthonormal. So in the case of orthogonality, unit vector is not a requirement, but in the case of orthonormal, unit vector is a requirement.
Right, sir.
And of course, in both cases, inner product will be 0.
Okay, right. So next question is from Kingshuk Boiragi. Sir, what criteria is to be looked into while choosing transform like wavelet, STFT, etc.? In signal processing, short time Fourier transform is very useful. Their frame size selection parameter may be increased or decreased to get the better output. But how Fourier transform is directly related to STFT?
Okay, so as you have seen that, let me just go to the question so that can you see my screen?
No, sir, I will just request you just a minute, sir. I will just make you show your screen once more. Allow me. Just give me a minute, 30 seconds.
Okay, no problems.
You may share your screen again, sir.
Yeah. So can you see my screen?
Not yet, sir. Did you just present it? Did you just allow show your screen option came, sir? Did you click on it?
It didn't come, I think. Anyway, let me answer this question. This is a good question. What is difference between the short-time Fourier transform and Fourier transform? So we can see that in the case of Fourier transform, in the time domain, there is no frequency information. In the frequency domain, there is no time information. And there are numerous applications we need both informations simultaneously. That means we need to know which events happened at what frequency and what time. So what we do in the case of short time Fourier transform, we multiply the signal with short windows, time windows, and then take the Fourier transform. And one signal is divided in many windows, so that we can capture the time information as well in the Fourier transform, which is lost in the traditional Fourier transform. Is it okay?
Yes, yes, sir. It is fine. Kingshuk, you may, if you have any other thing, you may kindly post in the questions box quickly. So Diprojit Mondol, he has got another question. He asks, okay, so he asks, thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. We know time and frequency cannot be shown simultaneously, but in STFT we are plotting Fourier transform with respect to time. I feel it a little confusing, sir. So again, a very basic question. So sir, will you like to take that, sir? Okay, so he has gone offline. Sorry for that. The speaker has somehow gone offline. Dr. Pushpendra Singh, he has got offline. So Professor Chirodeep, are you there? Professor Chirodeep, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm here.
You may kindly contact the speaker.
Okay, sir. I'm doing.
He has gone offline.
Yes, sir. I'm doing.
Okay, so we have to wait for the speaker for a while. He has somehow gone offline. I'm sure there is some connectivity problems at his end. So maybe that is the reason. So let us wait. So it was good actually that being a Saturday morning, we also had roughly 150 participants. So it's a good thing for the students who organized it. I'm sure Shohita is also one of them, one of the members of this organizing committee. So thank you for organizing this. I will request all of you, especially our dear students, to kindly organize such talks frequently, because it is a way of getting closer to academics, getting closer to industry also, if you organize industry talks. Today evening also we have got another talk from an industry personnel. So we will try to share those links in the students' WhatsApp groups again.
Hello.
Hello, Professor Chirodeep.
Hello,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
I have contacted Dr. Singh, and he said that he has joined as listener.
Okay, no problems, but still he can answer. Yes, I will do that. I will do that. Okay, so Professor, just a minute. I've just taken him in the panel. Okay, Professor Singh, can you hear us? Can you hear us now?
Yeah, of course I can hear you.
Okay, great. So I will just read that question once more. The last question we were talking about, it was a basic question though, but still, thank you very much. It was from Diprojit Mondol. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. We know that time and frequency cannot be shown simultaneously, but in STFT we are plotting for the Fourier transform with respect to time. I feel it a little confusing.
See, in traditional, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
So in traditional Fourier transform, we are having two classical representation of the signal. One is the time domain signal, another is the frequency domain signal. In time domain signal, frequency information is not available, and in the frequency domain signal, time information is not available. This is the main drawback of the Fourier transform.
Okay.
So to avoid this drawback, there are various methods to obtain the time information as well as frequency information simultaneously in time frequency plane. That is what this short time Fourier transform, Wavelet transform, and Fourier decomposition method is doing. So with the help of short time Fourier transform, Wavelet transform, and Fourier decomposition method, we can obtain time as well as frequency information simultaneously in time frequency plane without any problem. And that is how we are converting time domain signal to the time and frequency domain signal, which is imaged.
Right. Right. So that was thank you, sir, for that answer. I'm sure that Diprojit, you will write in the questions box further if there is anything that you want to ask. So Adarsh Singh was asking about normalized amplitude. He says, sometimes we face the term normalized signal amplitude in such transform analysis. How can we calculate the normalized amplitude?
Yeah, so normalization is simply nothing but, suppose we have a vector. So just we divide that vector by the magnitude of that vector. So normalization means now it is a unit vector, and in the higher mathematics everything is vector. Even like in the 11th and 12th we have seen that there is two things. There are two things. One is the scalar, another thing is the vector, and vector is having magnitude as well as directions. So when the magnitude of vector is 1, that is normalized vector. And when we are talking about in terms of the higher mathematics, especially engineering and all, so vector is everything. Function is a vector, matrices are vectors, vectors are vectors. So vector is having very broad meaning.
Right.
And hence function is also vector. So just we have to divide it by the magnitude of the energy of the signal.
Yes. So any normalization means dividing it by a common value. So it is like that only. So Adarsh, you are just as I understand that you are in first year. So okay, but I'm sure that you will be going through all this very quickly. So Roshan Kumar asks a valid question, sir. This is also somewhat, you can say, my question also, that we generally, right from our days or maybe prior to that also, we have been using MATLAB for all the signal processing. Like if we see the books also, we are implementing DFT, FFT, like we are doing MATLAB or Python. We are using MATLAB to implement all this, whatever transform you say, Fourier transform we are talking about. But nowadays in the online courses, they are using Python everywhere. So can we say that Python will overcome MATLAB even in this mathematical functions or something like that? Like which tool should the students use? That is what he is asking, Roshan Kumar.
Right. There is one main difference between the Python and MATLAB. MATLAB is proprietary. It is not free. We have to pay to get the license of the MATLAB.
Right.
Python is freeware, and I think over the period of time we have developed Python in a very good stage. And maybe after a few times, I would always encourage my students to learn the Python, which is a freeware. And if you know the Python properly, then you can implement machine learning and deep learning networks, and you can find the good job as well.
Right.
So if students are knowing MATLAB and Python both, then it is good, but at least they must know Python, I think now.
Right.
And all these implementation of FFT, image processing, video processing is available in the Python, and they are freely available. And even students can use the Google Colab, which is online platform, and there they can write the Python codes and build network of machine learning and deep learning without any problem.
Right. So Roshan, I believe you got your answer. Absolutely, completely got your answer. So there is one question from Mafizur asking that, sir, this is a basic question from a student. Like he wants to do further study on image processing. He's still in first year, just going to second year now. He says that I want to do further study of image processing and its applications, and I specifically I want to apply machine learning algorithms in image analysis. So, sir, which subjects should I choose to study. Like, you know, sir, in UM Jaipur, we are following partially CBCS syllabus. So a lot of options of
Okay.
subjects are being given to the students. So this is a good question from his side. Which subjects should he try to choose so that he can make his career on this application of machine learning in image analysis or image processing?
So I think for any kind of signal processing, maybe one-dimensional signal or image processing or video processing, linear algebra is the must from the mathematics side. Because if you do not know the linear algebra, you cannot implement any algorithms. That is one thing. Another thing, for the image processing, we should learn one-dimensional data analysis, maybe signal and system course or digital signal processing. And third one is the image processing and video processing. So if we know these three courses, then they are more than sufficient to do one-dimensional, two-dimensional, maybe image, and maybe three-dimensional video processing. And these are the sufficient things.
Right. So I'm sure, Mafizur, what you asked is you will the subjects that you got to know, those will be there in further semesters when you proceed with your study. But if you want to learn the subjects online, then definitely online courses are available everywhere that we know. So, but still, if you want to take this subjects that Sir was talking about, definitely will get the chance in further semesters. You're just going to the third semester, I believe. So there was a question for for the best programming language for machine learning. I think Mukesh, you got your answer, Dr. Mukesh Bankar. So I'm sure you got your answer. As Sir said, that Python is a freeware, so you should be using Python. But then again, MATLAB consists of more tools, more equations. So gradually you should also target MATLAB. So one question from Professor Prabrit Bandyopadhyay. He asks, sir, I have an n-dimensional system in state space. Is decomposition of each component going to get me a better understanding of the system, or it will complicate things as I'm trying 6D equations for fixed wing aircrafts? The equations are non-linear. So that is from Professor Prabrit Bandyopadhyay.
So when we are trying to decompose any higher dimensional data, maybe image, video, or something like that, we are trying to understand different components. So of course, in terms of the amount of data, that will be more complex. But of course, we are using some tools like machine learning and deep learning, that it will be easy for network to recognize the given information, which is hidden inside the structure of the different components.
Okay, sir. So thank you for that answer, Professor Prabrit. I'm sure that you have got your answer. So all the questions that have been put, like Mafizur and others, are saying thank you, sir, for giving the answer. Professor Prabrit also mentioned that. Thank you, sir. So, sir, thank you. I have read out the questions in the questions box. So thank you so much for this session. It was really a very enriching session for all of us and all our students. I'm sure you will get to get all your answers. So, have got many of you have got all your answers over here. So Shohita, I will request you to take over and continue with whatever you are left with.
Thank you, sir. When we studied signal and system, we see many quotes saying go down with convolution, Fourier is high, and so on. But the way you have taught Fourier transform was amazing, sir. Now I believe I can nurture the basics of applied Fourier transform very easily. Thank you very much, Dr. Singh, for your excellent presentation. Starting from the basic of signal decomposition, you have very nicely demonstrated the synthesis and analysis equation of Fourier transform. After that, you have excellently described the brief of other transforms like the phase transform, cosine transform, wavelet transform, discrete cosine transform. Starting with the 3D analogical Pythagoras theorem, you have beautifully shown decomposition methods of Fourier transform. Then you elaborated image analysis using the chirp analysis. Through several applications, you have further elaborated Fourier applications in images. In future, I believe our relations will continue further in future collaborations from our side. We will expect you to visit our campus in Jaipur once the situation normalizes. Once again, thank you, everybody.
So finally, I would like to thank you all for providing an opportunity. Am I audible?
Sir, you are audible.
So I would like to thank you all for providing an opportunity to interact with you and making my Saturday very important and beautiful. And especially, I would like to send my slides to all the participants so that they can go through it. And if they are having any question, then I will provide my email ID so that they can contact me or they can discuss with me. So thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It
And
was
thank you,
really,
sir.
really,
And
as I
thank
said, it was an
Shobhita.
enriching session. So, sir, once again, I will repeat the words that Shobhita said. We are really looking forward to seeing you in our campus once this situation is over, and we will be glad to have you in the campus. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thanks to
Okay.
all the
Thank you.
attendees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.